The Atlanta Hawks were one of the most polarizing teams in last year's playoffs, making it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals, where they would lose in 6 to the Bucks, who are the eventual champions. And even the most optimistic Hawks fans, I promise you, did not see them going that far. It was exciting to finally have some real talent on the team, getting Bogdanovic and getting Gallinari, and getting just real NBA players on the roster. Because the last 2 years before that, you've got Evan Turner, who's your backup point guard. You've got Chandler Parsons. You've got Alex Len, Damian Jones, those being your best bigs. It was horrible. And to finally have NBA talent, they were expected to be fighting for that 8 seed, 7 seed range the entire year. Some people had them missing the playoffs. And that's because you'd never seen this team with a whole lot of talent. John Collins had some great stats in the few games that he played. But what else really, could they do? And now you've got this team who's got a lot of playoff experience under their belt. Trae Young is a bona fide superstar now. He's got to be a top 15 player in the league. He just has to be. His offense was just ridiculous in the playoffs. And his defense wasn't nearly as bad as we all expected. You were expecting him to get absolutely torched. The biggest thing, I think, was that Trae Young was putting in consistent effort, playing the passing lanes, fighting over screens, doing all the kind of stuff that you don't see him do in the regular season. You did not see him do that in his first 2 years in Atlanta. It was watching Trae Young play defense the first 2 years in Atlanta, and even a lot of the third year, was horrible. It was horrible. And you could say that there was not an elite guard to take advantage of Trae Young's defense that much, and you'd be correct. The Knicks did not have an elite guard. The Sixers did not have an elite guard. The Bucks did, but Drew Holiday is elite defensively. He's not elite offensively, especially scoring-wise. So you could give that knock against him. But also, you've got a lot of defensive weapons that you can put around Trae Young to prevent that defense from being such a huge problem. Clint Capela, he got votes for Defensive Player of the Year. Need I say less? He was amazing last year, and apparently he was fighting an Achilles injury all through the playoffs. So seeing a fully healthy Clint Capela on defense is something to really look out for this season. John Collins has also improved considerably on defense in his years in the league. He's improved every single year. He's definitely more switchable. He's definitely moves way better laterally. Bigs, he's still going to get pushed around a little bit down low. It's just what's going to happen with him. But defensively, he's not bad at all. Then you have DeAndre Hunter, who is really solid defensively. And you've got the starting shooting guard position, which can be a little iffy. Bogdanovic can be okay. Herter was pretty good in the playoffs at times. And you also have Cam Reddish, who is good on defense. It's the offense that's the question with him. And then you have Trae Young, who in the playoffs is going to try. He wanted it more than anybody on the court, and I'm convinced of that through the entire playoffs. He wanted it. Maybe not more than Giannis, but he wanted it more than almost anyone when he was on the court last season. So you've got this team that's got a lot of playoff experience under their belt. Well, I say a lot. They have a year under their belt, and they went to the Eastern Conference Finals. Almost got to the biggest stage in the NBA. And they're so young with so much room to improve. And the thing is they weren't even fully healthy. That, to me, is going to be the biggest thing for them this year. Trae Young has been Iron Man so far. He hasn't really had a whole lot of injuries, knock on wood. Bogdanovic missed a lot of time last year. Hunter missed a lot of time last year. Cam Reddish missed a lot of time last year. And Okongwu also missed a lot of time last year. He's going to be missing a lot of this season, too. He's not going to be slated to play probably until December or January. And that's a big deal because he looked amazing in the playoffs guarding Giannis last year. He didn't get a whole lot of minutes in the playoffs or in the regular season, but he showed some serious flashes. So, as long as this team is healthy, what should we really expect from them? Because they added DeLon Wright this offseason, who is the best backup point guard that they've had in the Trae Young era, and that's a huge deal. You went from having Evan Turner, who was supposed to be the main backup point guard kind of player, who retired the season after that they had him as the main piece off the bench, really. Now you've got DeLon Wright, who's a solid guard. He can move the ball. He's not anything special, really, but he's just a solid player to have off the bench. And you still have Lou Williams, who's going to torch people in pick and roll. You have Kevin Huerter. You're going to have those Bogdan-Huerter lineups for the 1-2. You can throw Cam Reddish in there. You can throw DeAndre Hunter in there. If you need some size, you can throw the Gallinari, Clint Capela lineup out there. His team is ridiculously versatile. Ridiculously versatile. And adding DeLon Wright and just having all these solid guards off the bench is going to really solve one of the Hawks' biggest problems, at least hopefully. The biggest problem being when Trae Young sits, because Trae Young has to be a top 5 offensive talent in the league. He just has to be. His scoring and his passing and playmaking, they're just on another planet from a lot of these guys. He just has to be a top 5 offensive player. And so you've got all these guys. I think health is going to be the big thing for them, because Hunter he took a huge step forward last year. Still great on defense. The offense is coming along. He looked like a guy who could really be a star or an all-star. Maybe not all-NBA, but he really was looking like an all-star, like he has all-star appearances in his future last season. So if he can stay healthy, if that meniscus is no longer bothering him, he's going to be a huge piece for this team. Because you've got Trae Young, who obviously can create an entire offense by himself. Bogdanovich can, he's trying to be one of the best shooters in the league, and he was that late last season. He was one of the best in the entire league. You've got DeAndre Hunter, who, can create his own offense some and guard the team's best player. And then you've got John Collins, who is a constant lob threat, a shooter. His mid-range game is developing. His post-up game looks pretty good. He's got the fadeaways. He's got the face-ups. He's got a lot to his game, and he works so hard, and he's going to add to his game every single year. And then you have Capela, who's a lob threat, and he's going to be one of the best defensive centers in the NBA. Off the bench, you've got DeLon Wright, Lou Williams, Kevin Huerter, Danilo Gallinari, Cam Reddish. And you've got guys like Jalen Johnson, who might not get that many minutes. And you've got Onyeka Okongwu, who's going to be, a great defensive presence off of the bench when he does get back to playing again. So what can we really expect, or what should we really expect from this Hawks team? I'm going to say probably a 4 seed. Probably a 4 seed again, because you've got the Nets, you've got the Bucks, and I think it's possible for the Hawks to get that 2 seed possibly, if health is an issue for the Nets or something like that. Maybe even the 3 seed. I think it's possible for the Hawks, who are probably going to be great in the regular season because their depth is just ridiculous. But the Bulls, the Celtics, the Knicks, they're not better than the Hawks. They're just not. I've seen a million Bulls fans saying they're going to be the 3 seed, the 4 seed. That's great and all, but we haven't seen this Bulls team play meaningful basketball yet. They've looked really good on offense so far. Defense hasn't been a problem so far. Then again, they've played Cleveland and, some other teams, but the Bulls are not better than the Hawks. They might have more star power, for sure, but they're not better than the Hawks. Trae Young is better than any player on the Knicks. He's better than any player on the Bulls. Jason Tatum is better than Trae Young. So I'll give him that one. But this Hawks team is ridiculously deep, and I really think 4 seed. That's probably the minimum. If injuries happen, maybe a 5 or 6 seed. But I think the 4 seed is a realistic expectation for this Hawks team. I think they're going to be a home court team. As far as the playoffs go, I don't know if we should expect a conference finals appearance again, especially if the Nets are fully healthy and you got the Bucks. Depending on what the Sixers do with Ben Simmons, that's going to be a really tough team to go against again. With the right developments from their players, maybe they get to the conference finals again. Maybe the finals, who knows? I won't be surprised however far they go. But I think the second round is probably going to be a minimum for them. I'll be extremely surprised if they go out in the first round, unless somehow a team like Brooklyn slips to the 5 seed, or they end up matching up with them in the first round, or maybe the Hawks slip and they're a 7 or 8 seed. and they're playing one of the top teams like the Bucks or the Nets in the first round, then I could see them being a first round out. But I think second round conference finals is a reasonable expectation based on what we saw last year. Even though the East is a lot harder this year, a lot deeper than people are going to give it credit for. The Hawks just have it, man. They have it. They have a lot of players who could pop off. You have Cam Reddish, you have DeAndre Hunter, you have Herter, who's trying to develop. You just have so many weapons on this team. And despite, defense being a question, you've got a lot of defensive guys on this team too. So this Hawks team is great. You should be watching Hawks games if you aren't already. Hawks games are good for 1 or 2 highlights. You're going to see it. Did you not see the John Collins dunk on Jared Allen for the second time? So watch Hawks games. I really think this team is going to be fun this year. And y'all have a good one.